Hello, I'm Norman Robinson, and welcome to Affordable Housing Matters. On tonight's program, we will look at the Home Builders Association of Greater New Orleans, and we will also check out some of the housing changes of 2024, and then we will look forward to what's happening in 2025. The Home Builders Association is a professional organization that has been serving the residential housing industry and their community since way back in 1941. They are dedicated to supporting their members and promoting affordable housing in the Greater New Orleans area. We would now like to welcome their CEO, Mr. Dan Mills, who's no stranger to the program, and their new board president, Mr. Gerald Meyer. Gentlemen, welcome to Affordable Housing Matters.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. As you know, on this show, and of course you're familiar with that, Dan, we like to have a discussion.
Yes.
We don't have an interrogation session. We have a discussion. And the discussion has to relate to the interests of what people are looking for in the area of housing, and specifically affordable housing. So let's jump right into it, shall we? And I'll just throw questions out, and
Sure.
and you can handle it in any way that strikes your interest. So what should we be focused on when looking for help to make repairs after the historic snowstorm that we just experienced?
Well, first, let me say thank you for having us on. This snowstorm was extraordinary. We got to have some snowball fights, which we're not accustomed to having down here in southeast Louisiana. But with that kind of inclement weather brings challenges, and every homeowner that is in our area needs to walk around the outside of their home and take a look at what impacts may have happened. You know, freezing water expands. It can particularly cause damages to the roof area, so particularly around the drip edge. It can water dam, and it can seep up, and it can create cracks along the edge of the roof line. Any of the valleys, any of the areas around extrusions like chimneys that are coming out or other vents, these are areas to look for. Cracks in the shingles, things of this nature. Really and truly, it doesn't hurt to have a local licensed roofer come out and have a look at your house, just to have that inspection. It's a good idea anyway, because replacing a roof to the new Louisiana code standards can decrease your insurance, and all of us are struggling with the affordability of insurance.
So when we talk about licensed contractors, Mr. Meyer, what are we looking for?
So you're looking for someone who's been licensed by the state, is certified. You know, you're not looking for people that are storm chasers coming in. We're not really sure if they're even licensed. So using a licensed contractor is always your best way to go. One of the things too that Dan had mentioned is looking in with this particular snowstorm that we had. It wasn't our typical wet, icy snow. It was more of a dry, fluffy, beautiful snow.
Yeah.
But that beautiful snow finds its way into areas that the wet stuff doesn't.
So how does that happen?
So you have vents in your attics and stuff, so it can be drawn in. So you have people that actually put pictures of seeing snow inside their attics and stuff. So those are areas to look for too. You may see some leakage, or you may see water spots appear on your ceiling. That is not because your roof is really leaking. It could be from your gable vents, your ridge vents, other ways that the powdery stuff made its way in.
So what you're telling us is basically that we were fascinated by the initial snowfall, and it is not as innocuous as we would think. It's something that is a lot more serious in its after effects.
That's a great point, and we have a ridge vent along the upper ridge of most of the homes in this area.
A ridge vent?
A ridge vent that allows heat in the attic to escape, and the blowing snow blew into some of those ridge vents. In most cases it would be minimal, but in some cases, particularly on homes that had that northern exposure, they may have gotten some more in there. And that moisture is long gone now.
Yes,
but it's always in our part of the country worth checking, because you may have gotten some mold or some mildew in there. That's always a possibility, so it's worth doing a visual inspection in the attic.
So I should just climb up my attic stairs and take a gander at what's going on up there.
If you see any of that staining, it's something worth taking a look at.
Yeah, because I'm having a hard time visualizing what happened to one of my friends who says he's now got to renovate his kitchen because something happened on the roof with the snow, and it got inside the kitchen and damaged the walls. So now he's got to go in and redo what's already been done.
And it is important to use licensed contractors, because as we go in and mitigate these damages, we want to make sure that we're building the home back and we're putting resilient features in there, because we face these storms, and insurance for our entire community is elevated. And the more homes that we bring back in these resilient codes, the more likely we are going to attract new insurance carriers back to our community.
Well, let's talk about that since we've arrived. That's on my list. What can the Home Builders Association do towards assisting in attracting more insurance carriers to the area? Because as you know, there's a scarcity of insurance carriers, and the price of insurance premiums is now exorbitant.
Well, we've taken a couple of steps already. The first one was we lobbied and were able to usher through changes to our building codes. So the building codes in Louisiana are now the best on the Gulf Coast, and we've been recognized as such by a FEMA fact sheet that came out in 2024. So that means we're building homes that will resist the types of forces that we see in this tropical weather that comes in now. Secondly, we've got to make sure that inspections are occurring, and particularly with roofs, because with a roof, the difficulty is when we take the materials off, we're at risk for rain intrusion. So waiting for a physical inspector to come out has always been the challenge, and those inspections have long been waived by most municipalities. Today we lobbied for a law that allows us to do geo-tagged photo inspections for those re-roofs, which means that we can get a permit, we can install the roof taking geo-tagged photos along the way, submit them back to the code enforcement office in your municipality, and document that that roof was replaced to the new code standards, and we'll have photographic evidence as such. So this kind of data is needed to attract those insurance carriers to come back. They're not afraid to write insurance for a hurricane. That's what they do. They're afraid to write insurance on housing stock that they don't understand.
And we have a particular unique form of housing stock.
We do.
Because it's so old?
Well, the age is part, but we also have done for many years water mitigation, which means we've built homes up off of the ground. So this creates new wind profiles, it creates other aspects in terms of how to hold that structure to the ground in these high wind conditions.
So I was always under the impression, I'm biased because I've got a house that's raised off the ground, that was better than a house on a slab. So you're telling me that it's...
So you're susceptible to wind. You know, it can be blocked off its pillars. So a house attached to a slab, you have rods it's holding it down. With new construction of a house that's raised, there's still ways to tie it down so it goes back to the foundation, to the ground, to pylons underneath. And there's rod systems, there's strap systems that can get you the wind mitigation that's going to help with your insurance.
So how do I do that? How do I go about getting that kind of mitigation applied, to my policy?
So there's licensed people out there that will come in and mitigate your house, look and tell you where you are, and if you can qualify for any of the checkpoints, or how to go about reinforcing a gable on a house, because insurance companies don't like gables, right? They'd rather hip roofs because the wind can blow over. So there's different areas that licensed contractors can go in and do some work that will get you into those mitigation.
So we're talking about all of these changes that are going to make it better to attract insurers and hopefully drive down the cost of insurance. So doesn't that increase the bureaucracy? And we know what increased bureaucracy looks like, those of us who went through Hurricane Katrina.
It's true. And, in a trade organization, in a building industry, we're not often in favor of increased steps in order that get in the way of the expeditious replacement and construction of new homes. We're short of homes as it is. But in this instance, it's a necessary step, because without the insurance component, home sales and indeed our ability to stay in this community is at risk. So we've got to address that. And part of addressing that is doing a better job documenting the already fantastic codes that we have in this area. We have the codes. We need to demonstrate that we are actually building to those codes today.
So how do you demonstrate that effect?
So a great way to do that is public databases that are accessible for these insurance companies to see. So the wind mitigation component is so complicated that we've actually instituted a wind mitigation surveyors task force within the HBA. It's comprised of all 22 LSU CCC licensed wind surveyors in the state. And they meet monthly within our facility to discuss and talk about exactly that. How do we grow that database? How do we increase awareness of the wind mitigation survey program? And how can we attract more carriers? So we're actually meeting with Commissioner Temple's team on Monday to talk about expanding the database that they currently use for their fortified roof program. So they've invested in that program, and they have a bubble map on their website that shows 1,700 fortified roofs that have been installed. And the challenge is fortified roof certificates are issued to the owner of the home. It's not put in a municipal database. So they have those that the state has paid for. But there are 5,500 fortified roofs in our community. So we want to get those added. And then we also have the wind mitigation surveyors. For $300, they do a survey of your home, like an elevation certificate. This documents the wind mitigation features of your home. And those are in the possession of the wind mitigation surveyors. They could be uploaded into that database relatively quickly, adding another 11,000 documents showing what the resilience capacity of our homes are. So in very short order, we could have 18,000 homes documented for review by those carriers. This would be a great database that will help attract carriers. Our goal, we have determined, needs to be around 20% documentation of resilient housing in our housing stock.
Okay, so
we've got some
none of this happens without money. So where's the money coming from, Mr. Meyer?
So there are some grant programs out there that you can be part of to get your roof fortified. But not just fortifying a roof, but if you replace your roof and do it to current code, it's really important that you get it documented, like Dan was saying, because our codes are really stringent. And they're good. Insurance companies like them. They like the re-roofs. But again, it has to be documented. So by doing the geotags and getting it permitted through the municipalities, it's documented. That can be passed on to the insurance companies.
At what point do you anticipate that we can see this operating on a massive scale?
So one way to scale this up is to make the mitigation methods more accessible to the population. So currently, we have the fortified roof program. That's $10,000 towards a fortified roof. But that fortified roof, a retrofit on an existing home, could easily be double that amount. So it's still a significant financial impact for the homeowner, even with that grant. But there are many things that can be done from a wind mitigation standpoint. So for about $300, a wind mitigation surveyor comes out to your home, and it may not just be the roof. They will certainly look at the roof, but they'll look at your window openings, the kinds of doors that you have, and any other wind mitigation features. And they will suggest, here's A, B, and C that you could add to your home at a reasonable cost that could impact your insurance. When homeowners make those upgrades, they are eligible for a $5,000 deduction from their state income taxes today. We have suggested,
that's an incentive.
We suggested to Commissioner Temple that we increase that to $10,000, and he agrees with us. So one of the legislative initiatives that the Louisiana Department of Insurance will be putting forward is to increase that to $10,000. So this at least helps mitigate the cost, and local property owners can deduct some of the cost of these wind mitigation features from their income taxes, and thus we will have some leverage in expanding these items across.
So is this going to be a hard sell to the state legislators?
I don't think that one will be a hard sell.
No?
He's also trying to expand the fortified roof program, and that's going to be a much larger ask, because I think they've got $30 million dedicated to it now, and they're looking to perhaps as much as double that. And it's important to recognize that we have done an incredible work to let people know about this fortified roof program and the wind mitigation surveys. And today, if you look at the bubble map or the other evidence that we have of the wind mitigation surveys, you'll see that probably 85% of all of them done in the entire state have been done in our operational area in Greater New Orleans. So people are getting the word, they are utilizing these tools, they are improving our overall housing stock in the community, and that is going to attract the carriers back to our part of the state before they go to others.
What's the specific reason that our area has been the most, I guess, impacted by all of the changes?
It's the number of storms that have passed, and then when insurance companies leave, you have to get them back some kind of way. And that's part of the reason, is just the number of storms and natural disasters that we had over the last few years.
Are the insurance companies talking to you guys?
Yes. In fact, we met with the CEO of Allied Insurance just about 18 months ago, and he had a lot of great things to say about the codes. They recognize that the codes that we have in place are going to be revolutionary in terms of withstanding the force of these storms. So his main point to us is that we've got to have documentation. We've got to have databases that show that we are actually implementing those codes in the remediation work that we do and in all new construction. So that's the key. The other aspect, of course, is tort reform, but as home builders, we can't do a lot about that. I leave that to the good graces of the governor's office.
What scares you about tort reform?
Well, the challenge with tort reform, of course, is we have the highest rates of auto insurance.
Oh, don't I know it? Yeah.
Yet our drivers are not inherently any more unsafe than any drivers around the country. So why is that? Well, we are far more likely to enter into litigation when it comes to a car accident.
We're more litigious than, that's why we sue so many.
It's a fancy word, Norm. I don't know if I can say that. So it's a challenge, but it's beyond the scope of what the home builders can do. So we focus on what we can focus on, and that is providing resilient housing and trying to do so in the most affordable way that we can. So we've really done a lot to promote, through working with your program and many other media outlets within the city, this wind mitigation survey, because that's really the most cost effective. For just a couple of $100, you can get that survey, and most people, around 75% by our estimates, are seeing significant discounts, and I'm talking about several $100s or even a couple $1,000s off of their insurance upon completion of that wind mitigation survey, particularly if your home was built since, what was the change year? 1996, I think, something like that. So if you've got a home that's less than 30 years old, that wind mitigation survey is very likely to get you some discounts on your insurance.
Okay, so I have a 185-year-old house or something like that, and it's been renovated once in 1972, so what are my chances?
Well, so even if you don't get something directly, you'll get the advice of a licensed professional to let you know, here's what you can do. Right, so now you can do that cost evaluation and say, okay, if I install this kind of roof, I can reduce my insurance. If I install these kinds of windows, I can reduce. If I get these shutters, I can reduce. If I brace this gabled roof, I can get this reduction. So it enables you with the information you need. So even if you don't get that direct insurance discount, you have gained from the information of that survey.
Is what we're discussing now the biggest challenge we have in this area as far as home building is concerned?
I would say it's a big one.
It is a big one. Codes have really raised the price of the houses, right? But again, when you look at the insurance on an older home compared to a new home, it's significant. It's much cheaper on those new houses that are built in current code, you know, and we're seeing it. And again, it's doing what we do, teaching our members what needs to be done and how to do it and how to document it and pass it on to your consumers. Is the way
I would say affordability is absolutely the #1 challenge in our community, and actually I would say nationwide.
Nationwide?
We have a shortage of 4 million homes nationwide easily. But
what is happening?
But we also have a shortage of workforce. We're down 360,000 open positions in the workforce for our industry, which means there's a labor shortage. So labor costs more. and then supplies coming in, right? So a lot of our supplies, we get Canadian lumber, we get transformers that come from overseas, and then other things that we create here, including smart home components and others. But the supplies are also on the increase. So you've got material increases and you've got labor increases. Those are coming together to create some of the highest costs of production that we've seen in decades. And then we couple that with regulation, and if you talk about a $360,000 home, $93,000 of that goes towards compliance between wetlands reviews and the land surveying and pulling out all of the inspections and everything that we do from the time that we take a piece of raw land and develop it into a neighborhood. So there's an incredible amount of cost associated with that as well. So we're addressing all three of those, but we're at risk for those two of the big ones because we're very concerned about supply chain costs, particularly in terms of tariffs. That could be an issue. And we're very concerned about labor supply. So we rely on some of the immigrants that come in that are documented immigrants that are licensed and able to work in our country are a big part of our workforce.
What about even those immigrants?
We see some constraint there that will increase.
Yeah, that was on my list of questions. Not to poke the hornet's nest, but how is that likely to affect the availability of the labor force?
Yeah, I would say that it will affect it.
Yeah, it'll definitely impact it. And we're not only seeing it with us, like cabinet company or cabinet manufacturers out there, they're seeing the same thing. There's a shortage of the workers. So they leave this company because they're going to this company for 50 cents more an hour. So it's a constant battle of trying to keep them staffed. So it causes supply demands and shortages. And it's throughout the industry.
Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? All of this. I mean, where are you going to find these workers?
I'm always hopeful. So we need reform for immigration in this country. What we have right now is a very disruptive situation because as licensed contractors, we hire documented immigrants that are here, but 30% of our workforce is Spanish speaking. So we have a Latino committee, so we're reaching out, educating, and supporting that community within our association. But as a program expands that reduces those people that are percolating into that system, it will constrain labor, so we're concerned there. So we're trying to do other outreach, we're trying to do workforce. We're the primary guarantor for Job Corps training in this country, so we do a lot of training in that regard. We have an academy here on Williams Boulevard that trains in carpentry. But workforce is continuing to be a challenge for us, and it's continuing to be a challenge for several other industries as well.
And of course, all this goes to home affordability.
Absolutely.
So in a nutshell, that's
so
where
those
we
things
are.
come together. So on the horizon, however, we've seen some rollbacks of some regulatory requirements that could significantly decrease the amount of cost that we're putting in. So if you think about the regulatory impact, a $360,000 home could be $270,000. That makes it a lot more accessible. Every time we add, so I'll give you an example. If we have a new energy code that's coming out, they want to adopt, we'll add a 1-inch layer of insulation in your attic. So it'll increase the R value by 4. That is
when you say R
us,
value.
So the R value is the level of insulation capability that provides. And it is estimated by the DOE that'll reduce the energy consumption in that home by something around 1%. So we will make the home a little bit more efficient. But the cost to install that, to upgrade to the newer amount of insulation, is, let's just say it's $10,000. So it would take us the amount of savings for 1% increased efficiency to pay for that $10,000 increase will take us 40 years. 40 years.
Yeah,
so
the value
so the
is
challenge
there, right?
is that return on that very small increase of efficiency is too high to continue to allow us to have
not cost
affordable
effective
housing.
is what you're saying.
So we're ending up with the best built, most energy efficient homes built in the world today, but no one can afford them.
Right.
And
so we've got to do a better job of finding that balance that protects the safety of our community and our homeowners, but also provides a pathway that we can provide the homes in these compliance conditions.
so is that y'all's biggest mission for the year 2025?
I think it's the biggest opportunity.
Opportunity.
So this administration has demonstrated that they are favorable in reviewing those aspects of our industry, and so we're hopeful that we can find ways to make that proposition more efficient for the homeowner.
So are you more optimistic about the state lawmakers than you are about the federal lawmakers?
So yeah, that's a good one.
I'm known to ask a good question every now and then.
So, as we go to national events and state events, you're hearing it from everyone. Everyone, every state, throughout the country is in the same boat, right? So they're all fighting for it, and you're hearing it from both parties. They know there's an issue. They know there's a problem. Now, will they act on it?
Yeah. The question is, can they put the partisanship aside
and work for us, right? Yeah. I think that's the biggest issue, is realizing that who they're up there for is for us and for the consumer, and we advocate that every chance we get. Affordable housing. Yeah, you can build a fortress, but if no one can afford it,
what's the point? Right?
What's the point? Exactly.
Yeah.
The challenge that we face in New Orleans is, if we look at a single-family dwelling, the average cost might be $250,000 in the city of New Orleans. If we take that $250,000 home and we calculate the principal payment and the escrow, which would include the mortgage interest, the PMI, and the insurance that is required for flood, homeowner, and wind and hail, we get to a note of around $850 or $900 in that range.
Wow.
Just for that. But we haven't invested any amount in the property or the improvements yet. So when we then look at the average income in Greater New Orleans, which is around $40,000, if we take the 20% of that amount, well, we're just over $1,000. So that means where can you buy a house for $100 a month or $120 a month? That's the challenge that we face, right? The cost of the taxes and the interest and the insurance is such that is eating up the payment amount that an affordable house by definition would require. So it doesn't leave any room for property or improvement investment, and that's the challenge that we face.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We've talked a lot about wind damage. Next time we'll talk about flood damage. We'll see how they're going to handle the national flood insurance bill.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That will conclude our program for this evening. We would like to again thank our guests, Mr. Dan Mill and Mr. Gerald Meyer of the Home Builders Association of Greater New Orleans, for joining us on tonight's program. And if, by the way, you would like to watch this or any other programs, please scan the QR code on our screen, and it will take you directly to our WLAE YouTube page, where you can watch all of our programs at your leisure. Until next time, I am Norman Robinson, and we will see you next time right here on Affordable Housing Matters.